Hi guys, you like my light? You like my t-shirt? These are resistors. It means resistance. So today we'll learn a little bit about resistance. We'll learn about how it relates to your lifestyle projects. We're gonna show you how that relates to what you've been doing. Um, so today, here are what our aims are. I'm trying to get this whole thing down now. So, what did you discover during the lifestyle project? This is something that we've been talking about. This is something that you guys have been giving me some different responses. We have a shared document that you've been doing. Reading your lifestyle projects, you came up with a lot of different thoughts. So we'll kind of come up with some aims of the project. I'm going to talk a little bit about energy use in physics when you did them with electric circuits. Uh, Energy relates to, electricity relates to electric power in watts, and this is also related to how much emissions we produce. So um, we'll also look at some interesting points that you guys raised about income. How do income discrepancies affect someone's ability to complete the lifestyle project? And then just other circumstances related with the lifestyle project and some additional steps. So what we need to do next for this, figuring out this whole online thing. So aims of this project. This is all stuff. Most of the stuff I wrote earlier today. Um, I'm not trying to force or guilt anyone into using less energy. I'm not saying, "Hey, shut off all your lights," or "You can't do this," or "You can't eat anything more." It was more to educate you, to inform you guys on what you're doing. So I sometimes make choices like I eat beef sometimes. I think it's tasty. I know that it produces a lot of carbon dioxide and methane, a lot of other things, but at least I know it, so I'm kind of making that choice. So that's kind of what it's about is empowering you to develop habits based on science. So and so sometimes you can make decisions that will reduce your greenhouse gases that you're not aware of. So it's kind of that whole part about awareness. Um, so same goes for like everybody who's like sharing out. So we have to remember to withhold judgment. Everybody is different, and I think we have that figured out by now. Yeah, so you guys mostly did the project description. You know what the project description was. Remember, it was 1 week of baseline data and 3 weeks of progressively more lifestyle changes and documenting these through journals and a spreadsheet. So this is also on the shared drive. I'll try to make this public, but you should have this on your Google Classroom. For those of you that are just coming in and are interested in some of these materials, you can email me and I'll show you these documents. Most of it, I believe, originates from Carleton College. So this presentation is mainly focused on what you guys brought up through your lifestyle project journals. So I graded about 80 of these. Some of them are still coming in based on some of your reflections. And share document. So you guys know I put a video together on Thursday, and I was hoping that I would be able to read live comments, but I wasn't able to read any of those because no one was participating at the time. But later, a lot of you guys did raise some good questions, so I kind of centered a lot of this on what you're doing. So power is related to what you are using. So what does this mean? We're kind of getting into the physics about it. So basically, the more electricity we use, it requires more fuel, hence produces more emissions. Assuming that we're using fossil fuels, maybe we're using solar, maybe we're using wind, maybe we're using nuclear. But when you're using that kind of stuff, just understand that there's always going to be some sort of cost. There might be some toxic materials that go into producing the solar panels. There's not like one silver bullet, but in general, kind of the goal is to reduce power. And yeah, the fossil fuels, that's a different discussion that we could have. The basic thing is different devices have different energy requirements. So that's what I mean by this. So a lot of you were talking about like, hey, I make sure I shut off all the lights and I take my shower for X amount. So it is like, while shutting off a light bulb is being energy conscious, it's not like you're not getting the full picture by just looking at how much you shut off a certain light, because they produce different wattage. And I'm going to go into that really shortly. When we talk about warm water, we're not talking about electricity, we're not talking about watts, but we are still talking about fuel that is required. So we'll have natural gas. The key difference is that I didn't finish that slide. So yeah, the key difference, I guess, is the emissions that you produce in your home by heating water will be in that building. You'll see like some sort of something coming from your roof that like billows out, and that's where greenhouse gases are being produced, and that's natural gas used for water and heat, unless you're using an electrical heater. So when we talk about the grid, we talk about electricity. So how does energy use depend on the type of electronic device? So we've had current. We've learned a lot about current. You built a lot of circuits. And basically, we know that if you have a higher voltage, that's going to give you more of a potential difference. So it's like taking a bucket of water and raising it higher, and then pouring the water out. You're going to have more flow, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the water's flowing. So if you have more potential difference, and there is a path, then you're going to get a higher amount of current. So it's a really good analogy. I'm not going to go into it too much right now, but we've learned about it. But what we know is that current is equal to voltage divided by resistance. So remember, resistance is this is a resistance shirt, and resistance is something's ability to stop something. So if you want to have the same amount of power or the same amount of current, and you have more resistance, you're going to have a higher voltage part. So if you look at the equations, if this is like 5 and this is 5, this would be 1. And then if the voltage was like 10, this would have to be 10, and this would be 1. So yeah, hopefully that makes some sort of sense. Just look at the equation. So this relates to power. So when we talk about power, we talk about it in watts. And so power is just if you take the current times the voltage. And then when we talk about current, when we talk about power, that is, at least as far as the electric companies, then it's how many watts per hour. And I'm gonna show you another graph that'll break those down. So when we talk about energy use and carbon output, it's related to the wattage used in the electrical outlets. The wattage used in not the outlets, but the appliances that use them. So I have some examples here. Oh, look at, there you go. There is this is a meter. So you can find these in your home and apartments. You'll notice that you have a unit here, and it says kilowatt hours, and that is basically energy. That's how much energy that you use. You could probably take like a piece of coal and say, this can provide this many kilowatt hours. You're going to burn it. It's going to give you some sort of energy for some sort of time. So that's one way to think about it. So you can break it down. We have current is like, measure that in amps. That's basically the flow. You can think about the water. Resistance would be like the rocks that stop the water. Voltage, that's like the potential difference. So if there is a path, that's basically how a battery drains out, is that electrons from one side, there's imbalance of electric potentials on each side. So if there's a higher voltage, you're going to have a higher difference, but eventually that difference is going to be the same. So the amount of electrons is really not lost in the battery. In case you're wondering, it's just like some sort of difference between 2 points that are in the same unit. If that makes any sense. So when we talk about work, remember from the equation above, oh, I didn't put the work equation in there. That's okay. So we do have more stuff that you can do with calculations in kinematics and electricity that relate to work and energy. But that's all that we're going to really talk about. Oh, okay. So notice power. It's called power is relative to watt you are using, and power is measured in watts. Now do you get it? Yeah, That's kind of a bad joke. Sorry, this thing is there. Wait. Hmm. Trying to get my screen to work. Oh, look at that. Ooh. Look at, I'm experimenting. You can't see that. Ah, there we go. Okay. So it's getting kind of different around here. Which one does this mean? Oh, so what do I mean by this? And why is this important? Um, so say that you are taking a 5 minute shower, and if you calculate everything out of that, and you're not going to use electricity equations, but if you calculate like the amount of whatever it is that's heating the water up that's being produced from that 5 minute shower, on average is going to produce about 5 0.5 pounds of carbon dioxide a day. And I know all this, I collected all this data while just playing with the spreadsheet. So I entered in 5 minute shower, and I kept everything else at zero, and then I just looked at the count this per day. So you can really get a sense of the how much magnitude everything has. So that means if you take a 60-minute shower, on average you're going to burn 4.6 pounds of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. I mean, so we know that is a greenhouse gas. We also know that plants take it up. So I'm not going to go into greenhouse gas, but we do have another or the greenhouse effect and global warming. But it's a legitimate point. Okay, so 4.6 pounds of carbon dioxide a day. Well, I kind of feel guilty because I have my aquariums running, and I don't know. I like fish. And I was kind of relieved to find out that they were only 9 watts, which it's about equivalent of a light bulb. So what that basically means is that for every aquarium that I leave running, I am taking a 1 minute extra shower. So it's kind of like, that whole balance thing. So I tend to take short showers, can keep them under 5 minutes. And so yeah, that's kind of like, so I can have these things, but there is no budget on this. Everybody kind of recommends and knows that people need to do their part and just conserve. Other things I have on here are air conditioner. So air conditioners, I don't have the wattage on the air conditioner. But whatever it is, you could actually probably calculate it. It's going to produce 4.6 pounds of carbon dioxide if it's running like half the time. So it's about the same as like a 60-minute shower. So yeah, just kind of putting things in perspective there. How does a 10-watt aquarium gallon filter compare with lights? So here we have different light bulbs and different light sources. This is kind of like the old school light bulbs that we have. And you can easily look at a light bulb and see, is it halogen? Is it compact fluorescent? Is it LED? So LED is 4 watts. And so if someone's leaving an LED bulb on all night, it's going to be like 40 watts? It's going to be about, it's going to be significant, but it's going to be small relative to some other things. So I guess if we were having a class now, I'd have you guys talk about what are some of the relevancies of this. This is from Home Depot, by the way. Thought I'd give a shout out to that. So hopefully now you have kind of a sense of how this relates to the physics that you have been learning and your lifestyle project. Also, a lot of you, okay, so another good thing that came up, there's a lot of good things that came up in your lifestyle project, but how do income inequalities affect participation? So yeah, that's a very important concept or some important question to consider. I don't know how this thing keeps going off. I think maybe I'm just, who knows? Oh, there we go. All right. Anyway, some of the pros. So here's what I found from reading a lot of papers. As many of you said that your families were proud that you were saving money, you were saving gas, you were buying less gas, you were eating out less, And really big thing that parents appreciate, parents and guardians and families, is that you were able to save money on gas, electric, and water bills. Um, a lot of students kind of commented on how you make cheap and yummy meals. Um, and you discover that going out is in more expensive in general. So yes, if you have like even for fast food, it's cheaper to make a lot of things from home. Um, Now that said, there's some cons. Like vegan food can be more expensive. Like comparing prices of produce from like a co-op versus a Cub Foods or Target, you might see a slight difference. Um, we do a little bit of both. My wife does most of the shopping, to be honest, and she does a lot of shopping at the co-op. And a lot of times, I'm kind of surprised, and she's kind of surprised that when things are in season, how low they can be. Um, and then cheap food, like it depends on where you live. Cheap food is, it's sometimes it's the only thing that's available, or I shouldn't say cheap food, because you can buy stuff in bulk, like oats and or oats and stuff in bulk. But cheap food or accessible food is what I really should say is not always sustainable. So sometimes you have places that have like high poverty and all that really is about are there are all that's really available and accessible are like small convenience stores where I don't know, you see a lot of like prepackaged food. Um, so and then here's a big question: how does a homeless student do the lifestyle project? So how do they like actually have access to technology and look at what they're doing? And that is a big question, and like it's like I don't have an answer for that. It can't. Probably could take data and water use, but a lot of times you don't have a choice. Um, but they are the reality is they are using really sustainable practices. If you think about amount of energy being used. So if you guys at any point, if anything that I say is sparks a question or any sort of interest, or leave a comment below. Let's see. Oh, I'm not rambling that. Well, it's about 16 minutes rambling a little bit. All right. So, how do special circumstances affect participation? So we saw that we talked about income inequalities, but there's a lot of things with family members with medical conditions, uh, and even families that don't have medical conditions. A lot of people are being more proactive in washing, and maybe we'd see water usage going up. Um, we had people comment in your papers about people that are have family members that are more susceptible during the pandemic. So they're taking extra measures, and like I said before, like no one's judging. Students are recovering from surgery, so it's like, yeah, I can't take a shower, and I need a bath for like therapy and stuff. And it's like, even if you want to take a hot bath to relax, like kind of like what we said, um, the goal is to be aware, but not just to be able to make decisions. Like, oh, what a lot of people do is like, oh, I did this, I haven't really thought about that, or it's kind of cool, like, oh, I'll get to that later. Um, so students with limited access to food have little decision making and choices. That is definitely true, and I just wanted to reiterate that. Um, there's also this stigma over living conditions of like, hey, I have this like situation going on that I'm not really willing to share out, and that's totally respectable and understandable. But um, but if you do, I would like to create an environment or be in an environment where people are accepting of that. Um, so when it comes to this kind of stuff, and this isn't just like being environmentally conscious, but we're talking about problems like climate change and the COVID virus. I know a lot of you are stressing out about a lot of things. End of the quarter, and I got this from Miss Miss Johnson. She just sent this on all staff, and I thought, oh, this is kind of relevant. So this is the sphere of influence of and control. So really focus on this. It says what I can control. You can control turning in your assignments. You can control certain things. Some people can control more than others. And then you can think about what you can influence, like maybe your family. Like, hey, maybe we should try. Can we do one day of like, I don't know, whatever you want to do, like vegetarian, like going vegetarian, or um, and something about energy use. And then some things that are just like not outside your control, which is like our situation now. And maybe there's some things that you can do to influence it. Maybe there's some things that you can do to influence your community. But I think this really relates to like both when we're talking about climate change and we're talking about this pandemic that's going on. So yeah, additional benefits that happen from the lifestyle project. So these are kind of the things that are like I read your summaries and it's like oh that's kind of cool. That's a good thing. So one of you in particular was talking about building number sense. Like, oh, I've been weighing all these things. I want to figure out what I'm throwing away, and the scale's a pain in the butt. And now I'm just estimating. But I'm thinking, oh, that student probably has a good idea of how much things weigh. It was like, it's just kind of a good way to build number sense. And I'm like, properties that matter much. Let's see, what else? Oh, this was a lot of this. A lot of you sustainability minded students, like you come from environmentally conscious families, and when you start the project, you're like, oh, but we already do this. We already do this. I'm already a vegetarian. We have a hybrid car, and so it's somewhat skeptical, but a lot of you were very open-minded in finding new and innovative ways to reduce your greenhouse use. So I thought that was kind of cool. So it was like smaller things like hair dryer use, hanging clothes instead of drying them. One of you commented on just discoveries and small things that help. Combing your hair like outside when you're outside of the shower, so finding that extra bit. A lot of people find that hot water uses quite a bit of energy if they play with a spreadsheet. Family members are usually pleased with the reduction in cost of energy and water. Some of you would have brothers and sisters that would make fun of you by eating like packaged food and taunting. And yeah, I come from a family like that too. I don't know. What do you do? Let's see. Next steps. So what do we do now that we've learned all this? And you guys were great about your responses. And I think the majority of you said something like, this was easier than I thought. I want to continue with these changes. Maybe not all of them. I'm going to use my car. I need it for work. And then let's see. How do you get it to a broader community? So a lot of you talked about, oh, it'd be nice if my parents could do this, or just stuff to think about. One of you guys mentioned contacting senators and school board members. I'm kind of I'm kind of into the science thing, and I try to push it, but I try to not be like, yeah, we won't go into that. But so I guess that's why I'm doing this, and I got this YouTube channel now. So encourage participation in the lifestyle project. Yeah, so that's kind of a I read this before. We are all pioneers in these new and challenging times. I really miss the daily contact you to witness your mistakes, discoveries, and insights. You have proven you wake up each day with new ideas, with growth and development. You have unique skills set and passions. By collaboration and through social distancing, or when we can rejoin face to face, we will adapt through this and get through it together. So, I don't know. There's your positive closure. I'm going to end with a little bit of humor. The lifestyle project, a lot of you guys were just kind of straining and stressing out, getting your journals together, compiling them, working on that spreadsheet. I know that was hard. I know it was challenging for some of you. And then one of the questions I asked, it was a few days ago. It's like, oh, we're going to have this discussion. Think of one thing that you've learned about yourself from the lifestyle project. And one student said, something that I learned today is that if you work on something that it's so close to your eyes will no longer focus, so everything becomes blurry and you feel old. I thought that was hilarious. My response would be, thanks for the comic relief. Welcome to my world. That's how I'm feeling. You all see me going, huh? I can't read that. So maybe you've become older and wiser from your experience, so you feel old. Think about that. All right. Next steps. You got a survey, so check and make sure that you complete that survey. There was a question about group work where I didn't address it. I didn't address it like, oh, I just put the wrong response in there. So I put it as option, and it was supposed to be fill in the blank. And so there was a number of you that weren't able to do that. But I'm going to figure that out in like maybe a week. I'm just going to Yeah, we're gonna see how that works. Maybe I'll send out another survey. Um, you could maybe actually, if you resubmit it, I bet you could take it again with your name and then resubmit it. That will probably work. Um, Reconnect with us. We want to see everybody. We want to hear from you guys. You can go ahead and answer the question of the day. So there's a link right here. There's a link on your Google document. Today, the question is, what are some cheap and easy meals you or your families or guardians prepare? So we're kind of talking about this whole income economics thing. Maybe don't really think about sustainable right now. I mean, it can be, but what is your favorite food? So, or what is your favorite food? So thanks for watching this. Please like or comment. If I get 10 or more comments or questions below before Friday, I'll make another one of these. So take care.